It's based on a true story, and since I'm from North Carolina, and a lot of my friends are still here, I tell them, and a lot of them remember it. My parents remember it, and I vaguely remember it. So I just say that it's a heist movie that took place in 1997 about a guy that was kind of desperate and did what a lot of us may do or think about doing if we're in that kind of predicament. I think there was a lot of nerve um, in this story, a lot of nerve from the people that orchestrated it, and the fact that there's kind of a bit of a tinge of a romantic story too. I think kind of makes it different. When I first met David, we went to lunch in California, and we sat down, and he's a very gentle, nice guy, but he's different than he was back then. He was rambunctious back then. He told me, and when you're in your early 20s, not that most of us have the thought of taking $17 million. David will tell you, he was tempted. He just was making $8 an hour and having $20 million in the back of his truck. So we talked about temptation, and we talked about the fact that he had this kind of a rough start beginning of a life. You know, who's this? We don't know what we would say if we were in that predicament. It's a terrible decision on David's part, and I think that David sees that. I think the sweetness of the character is kind of borrowed from David a little bit, because I find him to be sweet and somewhat even innocent in a way that just kind of got wrapped up in a bad idea, and I think we're all guilty of being wrapped up in bad ideas. I think young men and women can be tempted by the opposite sex, sometimes the same sex, and it confuses things. And when the heart starts playing into it, then your rationale leaves, and I think that's what happened. Is the heart and the passion overtook the common sense. I've known Kristen because I've worked with her before on other things, but I really got to know her working on this. She's the goofiest lady in the greatest way. She's so unafraid to try things. And I think Kristen brings she's a good actress. So a lot of comedians are seen as just being funny, but it's nice when they can, when you can see them do both. And I think working with Kristen was probably as far as working with another actor, I've never been more delighted. We clicked. Thank God, because it's the worst when you don't. I look at some of the wardrobe in this movie, and then I kind of go, "Oh, I wear those clothes sometimes still." Are they making fun of me? As a stand-up comedian, I think the best thing to do is just have a microphone and nothing behind you, so people can concentrate. And I feel like that Jared does that. And he's also subtle. There's subtleties and small things. American comedies can be really loud and bad language, and that's people love it. I feel like that's becoming hacky now. All the cursing and stuff. Jared and I agree on that. We can make that. We can make jokes without in them. Yeah, Kristen and I, it was we were working. I think on 1 in the morning, and people want to go home. They have kids to go to. Kristen and I got the giggles like you do if you attend a church where you're not supposed. It is the greatest thing. And I'm 44, and I shouldn't. It's unprofessional to laugh at 1 a.m. with the other actor. And I was trying to play the disciplinarian, and I tried to say to Kristen, it's 1 a.m. Try to be professional, to make it look like it was her fault. But I couldn't stop laughing while I said it, so it totally messed everything up.